I don't think it's wrong to want to be like God, but I think the problem is when we attempt to be like God without going to Him directly about how He can transform us into His image. Like the entertainment industry as a whole, if we understand the purpose of what it was truly created for, like even the word, if we go back to the Middle French origin, entertainment, to divert, like to divert your attention away from the truth. That in itself, understanding that purpose, it kind of like re-engages me of what my goal is to, which is like to distract you, but just to let you know you're being distracted. Um, I think also like we have a tendency to believe that us as Christian people cannot successfully like be in a system that is demonic in nature. And I think like if we understand like in the Old Testament, anything that you touched that wasn't clean, or if you ate a certain thing that wasn't clean, you'd become unclean. Yeah. But the beautiful thing about when Jesus came was he was able to enter a dark world, and anything he touched became clean. That's good. And as heirs to to Christ and his kingdom, we have that same power in the music industry. That whatever we touch and whatever we do will become clean.
Oh, that's good. So when you were producing this record, who were you directing your message at?
I would like to say that my message was created for the person who's obsessed with technology and the godlike power that it gives them.
Wow.
Like technology, I feel like really takes our attention and focus away from God. Like you can like think about your iPhone. If your iPhone is plugged up to a power source, you know that you can say Siri and she'll hear you.
That's crazy.
But we've got people who don't even believe that God hears them when they pray or when they speak their heart. I think that in itself like really motivated me when I was making this album. Like, okay, we've got people who have the world at their fingertips, and I want to speak to the hearts of those people who may not have an open awareness about God and His nature, but just to let them know, hey, He's real, He loves you, He's here.
Yeah.
And just to bring that back to the forefront.
Wow. So, I mean, even talking about the industry itself, what direction do you see hip-hop going?
I think hip-hop is in a dynamic place right now,
mm-hmm.
and I think the industry is hungering for people who actually have a voice and a message. I don't think in 2015 you can be a hip-hop artist and not have something to say. In past years, like hip-hop goes in a cycle. You know, you'll have your cycles where it's all about the turn-up music, the music that makes you feel good, you can play in the parties. But then every now and then the market gets oversaturated and people are desiring for something that's going to actually feed them.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're in that time. And then at the same time, people have a hunger for live musicality. Like instrumentation is very popular. Like I told people actually at my album release party, I said, hey, with what I'm doing with this album, in 2015, this is the trend. People are going to start experimenting with live music. And we see it with the most popular hip-hop artists of today. They're doing that.
Yeah.
And I just think the direction is really just having a message for the people.
Speaking of your album specifically, congrats on a successful debut, 36 and out of 95 on the iTunes indie charts. It's crazy. For me specifically, listening to it, I felt like it was a new direction for you in a sense. I feel like every time I listen to something new that you put out, it's like you're trying to reinvent yourself in some capacity. And it's almost like Cellus is trying to tell us that he can do everything.
I feel like music is very representative of where the artist is in their life at the moment. Every project that I've put out, like I understand that my audience is going to grow with me. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is for them to be able to see the process that I go through as an artist, you know, flaws and everything. Right. And so this project was kind of me putting everything that I've experienced at this point and who I am at the forefront and say, God, I'm giving it to you. I'm going to experiment with melody. I'm going to play the trumpet a little bit, you know, like, and really just be bold and be free with the music. And knowing that this will never sound like anything I'll do in the future because this is where I am at the moment.
Yeah. Huh, that's awesome. And specifically talking about your album, there's one feature. Is it really your mom rapping on Boycott?
Yeah, man. My my mom is the reason I rap.
Yeah.
And then also, like, features say a lot about your project, and even about you as an artist. You can either have a project that's heavily saturated with features, and typically everyone will say, okay, maybe he needed those features to help carry his project. He needed some people who can do certain things to make him appeal to certain people.
Right.
I felt like I was in a place right now where I had a lot that I wanted to say personally, and me being an independent artist, with a small team around me, I felt like keep it in house, and maybe my mom was the only person who could,
That's cool.
add that little extra, little extra flavor.
That's cool. I know their label, Prophesied Records, is a family label. Is your mom still managing your career?
Nah. What's funny about that is this was like a recent thing that we were going through. My mom's been there from the beginning when no one believed in me. Just what moms do. They support you when no one else will. And she was the first person who took me to the studio, like invested in my career even to that degree. And as she was managing my career, I felt like we were at a place where, because we're both so similar as far as we're both, very like perfectionist. Like
Yeah.
if we have something that we want to do, we want to make sure that it's exactly the way we envision it when we start out. And because of that, it was a lot of tension. Like, and I felt like our relationship was being strained, manager instead of mom.
Yeah.
And I was losing, in a sense, that mother-son relationship that we should have for business. Like, everything that we talked about was only about music. And I felt like it wasn't a healthy place.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I really had to say, hey, for the sake of just in general, God gave her to me as a mom. If anything happens and we don't speak because of music, like, I wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I need my mom to be there, who has my best interests at heart. When I have some decisions to make, that I can go to her and say, hey, outside of business decisions, what do you think as a mom who was here first?
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, to remind me of why we started this mission in the first place. So it was tough, man. Cutting that tie as far as her being my manager, we weren't speaking for weeks.
Really?
Like, we literally, everything. It was pretty ugly.
Dang.
But the beautiful thing is, the healing process has been happening, and honestly, we're at a way better place than we've ever been. And I feel like it's just a testament. Like, relationships in the family structure is the earth's first way to see unconditional love.
Yeah.
And people can't believe God can love them unconditionally if they don't even see it in their own families.
Yeah.
And I think it was just important for us to restore that family dynamic so that we can move forward with music. And it's been amazing.
I respect that a lot. Speaking about your faith, do you ever fear that you're not going to be successful in this particular industry because of your faith?
Every day.
Really?
Every day. But I'm a strong believer that every decision we make in life is based out of love or fear.
Yeah.
And of course, as a believer, I understand, like, God hasn't given me that spirit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if I focus ultimately on my goal, which is to spread the gospel through music, I cannot allow myself to believe that this industry has no place for me.
Wow.
When I fully understand my purpose and what I'm here to do, what people may think no longer matters. I've been commissioned by the King. Like,
come on.
So, yeah, man, it's a valid fear, but I fight it every day.
Wow.
Every day.
Dang, that's really awesome to hear your heart on that. Absolutely. So when making this album, making The Most Beautiful, what would you say was your most enjoyable part of making it? What was your favorite time in recording studio or launch party or anything like that? What would you say your favorite part was?
The fact that it came out. Like, well, for me, working on a project, I usually have, because I'm a big writer, like, literally, I take notes on my phone, but I still like to sometimes just put the pen to the pad.
Yeah.
So I always start off with a notebook full of a bunch of topics that I feel like I want to hit. kind of like a brainstorming sheet,
Yeah.
an outline of where I want to go. And usually the project will never be complete until all those points are hit. Like something will happen where God won't allow it to be done.
Right.
And then also there's always just the aspect of, and I shouldn't look for the bad, but I always feel like there's always going to be resistance whenever I'm putting out a project, especially like for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So usually I'm looking for like, is the hard drive going to crash? And different things happen. But for me, the best experience of this particular project was seeing how I was able to finish the project 5 days before it came out. Not knowing if the project was even going to happen. Like literally nothing was mixed, nothing was mastered. I'm literally at my album release party. Everyone's there celebrating the album that's supposed to release at midnight. And I'm sitting here just knowing I was on the phone with iTunes 2 days before, and they're like, hey, we can't tell you anything if it's going to come out on time.
Wow.
So we're literally there at the album release party. We're playing the album, we're doing a countdown, we're praying, everybody's enjoying the celebration. And then I get a text from a friend in DC, and she was like, hey, I just bought your album. And it was
awesome.
just like, wow, okay, it's out, we're here. And it happened.
That's incredible. It's incredible. What do you want the legacy of Cellus to be?
Man, ultimately, I guess that my family's reconciled. I think people who have known you before the world knew you, who've seen your process, I think the outcome may not necessarily even be for me.
Yeah.
I think the people who've been there, who may not necessarily always understood what I was doing, but saw my passion for it, I think it'll be a powerful way for God to say, hey, I can do the same thing for you.
Wow.
And a lot of people just need to know, man, that that God can do anything and that He can use anybody. And I think my family will be able to see, extended family, family in the house. Everyone will be able to see, like, wow, like, he stuck to it, and we can clearly see how God used him. I think this generation is looking to see, like, the people of God boldly identified. Like, they're searching. And I think ultimately it'll be a way for my family specifically, to be reconciled and see that for themselves.
That's cool. Super awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down with me. It's been awesome just to hear your heart and just kind of get a behind the scenes look of why you do what you do. But 2 questions. 1, tell me something personal about you. What do you want your fans to know about Cellus? What do you want them to know? And then 2, what is some advice you give a new guy coming in the game? What would you tell them?
I guess I would say for something I'd want people to know about me, is that I am a man who is not afraid to make mistakes. And I think it's a privilege to be able to grow in front of people. I think a lot of people fear making mistakes and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beautiful things is you always can point people back to God when you show your humanity.
Yeah.
Wow. And just simple advice kind of wrapped up in that same thing is just, hey, like, do you, stay true, and like, don't try to please man. Like, for years I was an artist who would try to catch the attention of some of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the more that I tried to appeal to them, I lost sight of what I was really doing it for. And ultimately, they would never notice me if I'm trying to get their attention.
Right.
But when you do what God has called you to do, and only you can do it, everyone's going to see it. And people can't deny it. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Cellus. I just want to thank everybody who took the opportunity to give my new album, The Most Beautiful. And if you don't have it, I don't know what you're waiting for. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and also check out my website, iamcellus.com.